July 9th, 2017. Just a quick shot of Mama and babies peeking out from under her wing. I just thought that was so adorable that I just had to share. So, just a quick shot. Say hi Mama, hi chicks. July 11th, 2017. Don't have a lot of time for videos these days. I have a lot more I want to talk about. But today I just wanted to do a quick video on drip tape and irrigation in general. Drip irrigation is something that's been implemented over the last 10 or 15 years pretty extensively. It was less in use prior to that. There's many different types of drip. What I use is something called drip tape. This ordinarily would be planted into the row under plastic, behind a plastic layer, behind a tractor. And so it would just be spooled under the plastic and you wouldn't see it. There'd be a plastic mulch over top protecting the plants. In this case, I don't have runs or fields that big, and I don't have equipment for that, and I don't want to put down any more plastic residue than I absolutely have to. And at some point in the future, I'd like to find a way to do away with even this stuff, because I don't like throwing this stuff out at the end of the season. But the moles and mice get into it over the winter and chew it up, and so I end up having to throw it out. It also becomes brittle over time and breaks down. Anyway, I just want to do a quick video on how you can use this in other methods than its conventional method. It's fantastic stuff. And I just want to talk about a few key things with it. It does have a tendency to stretch and tighten back out, stretch in the sun and tighten back up when it cools off. This corn planting here and these other two here are both laid with this drip irrigation. So you can see that once it grows in, it's pretty non-noticeable. It delivers water and nutrient, if you inject nutrient, directly to the base of the plants you want to feed, and that water column kind of spreads down in a kind of like an upside down cone fashion, and basically will fill in between the drip points. This particular line has 1 foot spacing, and these are 1 gallon per hour drip emitters on this stuff. Let me see if I can show you a quick close-up of a drip emitter real quick. So if we go, yeah, there we go. If you go down the white strip side of this and you look closely right there, you can see that little slit. Right where that slit is, there's a little drip emitter hole. If I get a chance before the light ends here, I'll hook this new planting of sweet corn up and start it on drip irrigation so you can see these actually drip in operation. Anyway, a few points I want to make. These work great doubling as a row guide for planting, and I'll show you in just a second on another planting how that's laid out. So here we are at this year's popcorn plot. It has not been planted yet, with the exception of a squash row up the middle. Anyway, there'll be 4 banks of 5 rows of Dakota black popcorn. It's my second or third, I think third generation on that now in high nutrition. Anyway, so what I do is I'll go along and I'll figure out my stakeout row widths and such, and I'll measure those all out and I'll peg them with a wooden peg. I just go out in the back and cut small trees down and cut them into pegs and drive them in. And I peg each end, and then I go down and I hook up my spool on one of the tractor trailers like that. I hook the spool up so I can spool off of it on a steel bar, and I just drag it down. I tie it off on the end. I'll show you that. When you tie it off, you basically shut off the water from flowing past the tie point. So I tie off like that, so this charged line will only charge to here. After that it stops. And then I tie off to the peg as an anchor. Alright, so the reason I do that, and you'll notice this peg is set pretty sturdy in the ground. The reason I do that is because this stuff tends to stretch out, and if I had showed you this earlier in the day, you would have seen how much more slack there was in it. This was laid last night at night and pulled very tight, and then in the sun today it's stretched out a bit. So when I go back to plant tonight, I'll actually have to tense these up a little bit more. But I use this stuff because it makes an excellent row guide, and when you're done planting next to your row guide becomes your irrigation source. So you guarantee your water with precision delivery. And everything about farming for any kind of really high quality growth or good production methods is about precision. Precision spacing and planting, precision amount of water, precision on timing on when to feed and water plants, and precision timing on harvest. The more precise you can be, the more productive and accurate you can be. And it makes your job a lot easier later on in the season. Say if I wanted to come back and do a mow or a till or something like that down between these rows as a weed control method, or to add another crop in the under canopy. These rows are set exactly at 2 foot. I can go back down this with a tiller and never clip one of these irrigation lines. So precision is where it comes down to. Anyway, so you can pull this nice and tight. It gives you a row guide immediately. You tie off to the other end, and on this end where you're tying off, where you're going to feed your irrigation, and you want to be careful you don't fold these back too much, because it makes it a little tricky to get your fittings in if they're a little too stretched or mangled. Anyway, I'll come back, I'll rig tees into these, and basically make a plenum that feeds each grid piece, and each grid piece will be fed or watered independently, so that I can maintain appropriate nutrition, pressure, water distribution, etc. Anyway, they say that drip irrigation versus overhead irrigation saves between 50 and 75% of the amount of water that you have to pump to do the same job, because most of that water that when you use overhead irrigation is lost to evaporation, especially on a hot sunny day, and even more so if there's a wind. Also, if there's a wind, it will change your pattern on overhead irrigation. Drip, you don't have that problem, and you can inject nutrients that are too strong to do on a foliar method on plants, but not too strong for the root system. You can inject those directly in and not have to be concerned about burning a plant or causing phytotoxicity, which is a bad response to something you put on a plant due to sunlight and how the plant interacts with sunlight with that particular thing on it. Anyway, so that's the basics of how I use the drip line. It's fantastic stuff as far as that goes. It sucks that it has to be thrown out every year. I hate putting any plastic residue in the environment, and like I said, when I find a better alternative, I will be replacing it. So far, the alternatives that I've found are kind of pricey, and I need things to be relatively inexpensive right now. Anyway, what I'll do next is charge this up and get the drip going and let you get an idea of what it looks like charged up and running. Okay, so I just turned the water on, and you can see water starting to flow in on the first and second and third tees, and you can see the lines. You'll notice how they kind of charge up and kind of settle into the terrain a little more as they fill. Usually takes a few minutes for the whole grid to charge. And they say you should run about 8 psi on these. I can tell you that if you're running up and down long slopes, you're going to get a lot more water on the lower part of the slope than you will on the upper part of the slope. You're much better going across slopes, and if you have major terrain changes, isolating those drip grids from each other so that you don't have all your water go to the bottom. Either that or boosting your supply pressure, but then you can end up popping fittings, and if you start popping fittings, you're not getting water where you want it, and you've lost precision. Anyway, so now you see it's charging up, and you see how the line kind of kinks a little bit in spots. You just come down on the end and pull the end out. It straightens it out. and they all kind of charge up. And I wouldn't worry too much if you're a little off, like a 6-inch off on your row like this for a couple inches. It's not going to hurt anything. Alright, so those are basically charged up now. And so we'll give you a shot with the sun behind it so you can really see the drip happening. So there you go. Pretty easy to put on. If you use the peg system and you get it nice and straight like that, it works out great later on. If your lines get blown in the wind when they're not charged up, sometimes they'll get blown in the wind a little bit and they'll get kinked off of your row. The reason I leave the far end peg in place is so you can come back here and pull on that line and straighten your row back out without too much hassle. So always leave your far end pegged away from your plenum, and you can always drag back to your plenum and kind of make your plenum work to descend on it. Save you a lot of hassle. Anyway, drip irrigation is the way to go. I love the overhead guns. I love how much water you can put on with them. But when it comes to water efficiency and sustainability, I don't think that makes a lot of sense when options like this are here. I do recognize the fact that this is a plastic residue. I'm sure there are technologies up and coming which will be even better. Maybe someone will come out with a plastic residue that's based on a plant, like a cellulose base or something, and make the drip lines out of that, and then they could biodegrade in the following 2 years or something. That would be really nice. Anyway, I hope that helps you with drip. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them down below the video here. And if you like the video, please like. And if you want to hear more about this kind of stuff, or farming, or high nutrition agriculture, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching the Farmacy Seeds Network.